I think when I started riding and I was proud of how far I was riding and I was just enamored with the places that I was seeing by way of bike. I wanted to capture that, and I wanted to leave like a breadcrumb trail that says, this is who I am. I've been there, and not only was I there, but I appreciated this spot beyond just riding through it. I took the time to see as much as I could see, and photography really is just a medium to really capture that whole idea.
Hello, Kevin Winning here. I'm with Jake today. We'll just leave it at that. Goes by many different handles. And this is a series of interviews I'm doing with other cyclists who are also photographers and just things that have caught my interest on different social profiles that I follow. And Jake actually hit me up on Instagram, said, I like what you're doing. I looked at his stuff. I was like, wow, this is unique. I see a lot of people out there doing, kind of cycling photography, but looking through your feed, there's just something about the way that you approach your subject. And I want to ask you some questions about the history of that, but I didn't really get from you a good introduction about, who you are. I don't have a good way to introduce you. So Jake, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Jake, Dancer, if it matters. But I have been riding and been in love with cycling since I was a little kid. It started with, just a little single-speed BMX and stuff, and then met the majority of my friends there, in the cycling arena. And one thing eventually led to another, and I work at a bike shop part-time now with some of my best friends who own and run the shop, and they're racers and stuff, and I'm not really, but as far as me in a nutshell, that's kind of but it really is who I am. I definitely have other elements to my personality. I'm a musician at heart and stuff, but
so what kind of racers are the friends from your shop?
So I work at Cycle City in Parkville, Missouri, and that's owned by Joseph Fox, and he's a pretty accomplished cyclist. He does a lot of the long endurance races like the Dirty Kanza and Land Run, and then the trans-state races, bike across Iowa, Missouri, and all of that stuff. And he's definitely I look up to him a lot as a cyclist. I admire and am awed by the athleticism that comes with people that are that competitive. But I respect the hell out of it. But it's just I don't like to compare myself to people as often. I think it kind of takes away from what I am getting out of it as a cyclist, the adventure and stuff like that. It just frames it in a way that I don't think is right for me. But racers, Jeff Fox and stuff. Yeah.
Cool. No, that makes total sense. I think about things a lot in the terms of photography too. That's kind of my secondary thing. And photography for me is the same way. Like when I go out riding, if somebody else wants to race, like that's not really my thing. I'll try and hang with you for 20 miles or so. And then I'm done. I'm just going to ride at my own pace. And the same as photography too. Like, man, I'm not going to get into comparing myself to other people. I'm just going to do it because what makes me happy, essentially.
Right.
So you're what, gravel rider, road rider mostly? You do a little bit of everything, not really the endurance races and rides, but have you gotten into that? I
love miles, and I love being out all day on the bike, and I don't like having to say no to one terrain over another. When I started really doing legitimate mileage, I was kind of on definitely more of a road apparatus. The tire width and geometry of the bike that I was riding was very much a road bike. But hello? Oh yeah, okay, sweet.
Share the screen there.
Yeah, sweet. But now, lately, over the past year and a half or so, I had an opportunity to buy from another racer at the shop I work with. He's selling an old Super X, a Cannondale Super X, and it's a cross bike, but it's ready for just about everything that would make it, kind of a long haul gravel bike too. Just a carbon frame and a racy geometry. But
so what's this that you've been riding? I noticed you switched from the Fixie maybe like a year and a half ago to this Cannondale Synapse.
It's a Super X by Cannondale. So it's kind of it's more on the gravel end of things that just will hold wider tires and stuff, and it's a little more relaxed in the geometry than a Synapse would be, or the road bike kind of stuff.
So how many miles can you go on the road and it doesn't feel awkward?
It's really, I think I have the best of both worlds measured pretty much here, both in the tire width and just how you're stretched over the bike. I can comfortably ride, 50 or so miles before I start to really. That's kind of my threshold just as a rider. But there's no awkwardness that's generated from trying to ride on hard pavement versus the gravel. It's really a pretty much go anywhere kind of bike right now.
It's always the question about these, do they perform better on gravel or road, or can you? And I'm in this transition. I've been just on a road bike, and I need to get myself one of those gravel bikes that, still feels like if I wanted to do 50, 60 miles on the road, I'd be okay doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's pretty much what you're looking at here. It's a little racier than a bike that I would probably have picked out for myself, but it was a nice bike at a really affordable price point because a friend of mine is selling it. So I jumped at it, and I've kind of been able, I don't know if you can see there, but the stem is flipped up and stuff. It's not set up to race, but it is the idea of a really racy bike. And some people would probably look at the Super X and find out that I only ride casually, 30, 40 miles at a time, and don't really beat it up on the gravel and be offended by that. But it's because it is a pretty aggressive bike for the racing arena. But
sweet. Yeah, that's kind of one of my next questions is how long do you ride? I mean, looking at your profile, I always wonder, from your Instagram photos, like, did he just go out for a ride just to take that picture, or was that is that a spot you ride every day? It looks like you're a commuter and then sometimes you ride for fun, or is it more one or the other?
That's super fair. I've worried about that before too. That somebody would think that I killed myself just to go get a picture or whatever. But to be perfectly honest, in some cases it can be kind of true. Like, as I'm riding, if I'm more focused on getting a good long ride out of the day, I will be less focused on less prepared mentally to stop and take advantage of a photo opportunity, but I'm always looking around. So sometimes I see something that I would make a good photo in my head, but it won't be until the third or fourth time I've ridden through the area that I actually get a chance to compose myself, stop, and really frame things and put the subject where I want it and get what I want out of the opportunity. So, but as far as how far I ride or where I ride, like that, you have the top of the screen share here shows like the top of my feed on Instagram. All of those, looking at them, all of those are from the West Bottoms in Kansas City, which is just like those top 9 there are all from probably the same 15 square miles around the western side of the city and of Kansas City, Missouri. And it's just a really industrial, flat kind of place. It's awesome. You can pretty much access wherever you want, whatever you want from the area. But I've been in places of the city that I know for a fact I never would have been had I not been obsessed with cycling the way that I am. And that is really important to me. I feel like that's there's something to that level of exploration and just shrinking the size of your city that is communal in a way that I'm not sure how to say than that otherwise, besides taking pictures and just trying to show people, more or less the whole thing.
What I wanted to ask is, there we go.
Yeah.
Your older photos here, and this is kind of what I think people know you for. You have a lot of that section of town where you've got the industrial, some interesting, all sorts of interesting photos there. But this is what really caught my eye. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? Did he get tired of trying to figure out how to track stand his bike on his helmet and what's a better way to do it?
Man, that's so funny.
Inspiration for this?
I one time a long time ago, I saw something like a forced perspective shot from a cyclist, and I couldn't even tell you exactly what it was or who it was or when it was, but I became fascinated with the idea that you know, flipping things around and upside down might totally change the way you look at something, right? And then it kind of just evolved into this. I think again in the West Bottoms, I had my bike flipped upside down, and I was trying to figure out how to take a picture that married the ends of my tires to the horizon line, and it all just kind of became a style point from there. But
very cool. Well, that one jumped out at me because of the shadow. I'm like, is that the bike? No, that's the bike. Like, I love photos that when you first look at them, you go, wait, what's going on here?
yeah, that's awesome, and that's cool. That's awesome to hear. It's like sometimes I dump like a lot of time and energy into finding the exact right symmetry.
So, and you get, like you said, these industrial spots that you ride through. Like, this is a spot I can see you riding through many times, and you're looking around as you ride past it. You're like, yeah, I got to come back for some photos here. There's something here, under the right conditions. Like, did you ride this, specifically at night with your light on, or, how'd you set up this shot?
It's some things reach out at you at different times of the day, and layately here in Kansas City, it's been really snowy and just kind of nasty out, but with these pockets of like 50-degree weather. And I was taking advantage of one of those rare days here in February, and a lot of the snow had melted, and this spot in particular looked completely different to me, saturated the way it was with all the melted snow and just the moisture that was in the area. And it was just provoking in a way that I actually got off my bike, and I knew that between the alley and the uniqueness of the weather, that there was a shot there. And yeah, I eventually that's what I had captured out of the alleyway. But
so do you always ride with something to take photos? Like, do you always have or what kind of camera gear do you ride with?
All of it has been from my iPhone. I haven't. Yeah, it's just all from my cell phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one other. Maybe I didn't save it in these shots here. Yeah, right there. Okay. Almost all of your shots, you've got your Night Rider light on there.
Yeah.
I have the same model of light, and like, I take it up. It's easy to take on and off my bike, right? So yeah. Why do you always ride with it?
Oh, I ride in the day with it on too, just to have that forward visibility, more or less like a headlight on a car. But just being a cyclist in a city that's not super top tier as far as cycling culture goes, the brighter you are, the safer you are. And so, yeah, I just always have it lit up.
All right. Well, that defeats my purpose for the question then. I was thinking, you always ride with it, so when you end up in a spot like this, you can add a point of interest to your photo.
Oh, no, but it's definitely a plus. Yeah, it's a perk.
I've become more aware of that too. Like, where I ride, it's a lot of country roads, and it can be just not very busy, but then a big truck passes and there's just no shoulder. So I have a tail light on now plus a headlight. You're right. I ride with a headlight now too. Not that bright. I don't ride with my night light on all day. I have a little just kind of blinker on the front, but just to be safer, because when I'm riding by myself instead of with a group, I don't feel as safe. You said you started off on BMX, then you kind of got into the gravel and road. How long have you been riding, like what you're doing now? And then at what point did you start thinking about the photography and taking pictures on your rides?
Well, I'm not sure, I didn't start riding real mileage until I met somebody who, like, I was blown away by what it was they could do on a bike. I was humbled by it. And at the same time, I wanted to be able to say that about myself and stuff. And I was actually the first person I ever met that rode real miles is a good friend of mine. His name's Tony Blocklinger. And I just in conversation found out that he was training for a ride called the Dirty Kanza, but intermittently he was riding like 30 or 40 or 50 miles a day. And he had planned to ride a full century a few times even before that, or 100 miles in a day. And that sounded like superhuman to me. And so I very quietly started riding by myself and just kind of pushing myself further and further. And there was at one time I was proud to accomplish a 6 mile route, and then 12, and then 20, and then it just kind of advanced from there. But I didn't start riding like that, like I said, until I met Tony, and that was probably 3.5 years ago. That I considered a bike something that you could really do that on, really cover some ground.
So is your primary purpose for riding to what exactly? Just go do some miles for exercise, for fun, just to get on the bike and go see places?
Yeah, it's a healthy measure of all of it, really. It's a therapy for me to be able to exercise. I hate running. I can't run very well. And so the exercise is definitely a plus, but I think that comes second to the opportunity to explore and the opportunity to express myself through photography and stuff like that. It's just, I've always been kind of an artistic person and aspiring to create in everything that I do. So, cycling being a relatively dry thing without photography to me was awesome. But yeah, just sprinkled in some artistic endeavors along the way, and then this happened.
Okay, so then where did the photography start?
So like I have a personal Instagram feed. So Facebook and social media to me used to be this point of contention that I did not like. I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was like everybody's overly opinionated, and I got rid of Facebook, and I didn't know what Instagram was. And I went through this period where I was just kind of doing things pretty like in the moment. And at that point in time, I was also in a band and played guitar like every day. And that was my identity. That's how I like identified to people. That's what I considered cool about myself. But then I became obsessed with writing, and some other like musical elements to my life fell by the wayside. And I noted how quickly people forgot that I had ever considered myself a musician. It's just, and not that I think that I should be the first that important in people's stories, but their own narratives don't afford you the luxury to take time off from what it is you think you do. And so I think when I started writing, and I was proud of how far I was writing, and I was just enamored with the places that I was seeing by way of bike, I wanted to capture that, and I wanted to leave like a breadcrumb trail that says, this is who I am. I've been there. And not only was I there, but I appreciated this spot beyond just, riding through it. I took the time to see as much as I could see. And photography really is just a medium to really capture that whole idea, I think.
Preaching to the choir. Yeah, I love that. It's so my personal passion is, combining the two, not necessarily on the bike. I haven't ridden with a professional camera on my rides. I do like you do. I take my iPhone with me. If I see something interesting, I take a shot. But your feed too doesn't have a feel of look at me, like I'm just here to take the photo just to post it to Instagram just because my followers expect something from me. Your feed has that feeling of, like you said, like I appreciated the fact that I was here and this is part of my life, and I love the scenery. I love what's going on in my life. I want other people to enjoy it too. It has that feeling to it.
That's awesome, man.
Which I think you get tons of comments. Obviously, people love what you do too. That's
yeah, and that's really nice or whatever. But yeah, it is like, it's just at the end of the day, if I would be sad if all the photos went away or whatever, but they are really just personal to me. I remember everything about where I was and why and how hard it was to get some of those shots too, waiting for cars to go by. I mean, for any one actual picture, there's at least 70 to 100 others that were of the same idea, but just not what I wanted.
They didn't get published.
Yeah, and so you have that pulled up right there. And the last action shot where somebody referred to it as that recently, but where I was on the bike, riding up the street. But yes, that one. So those, again, I'm usually by myself, and that was taking advantage of this really long, close to to traffic stretch of road where I actually had to set my phone down and videotape just the empty frame, and I rode all the way down the street and back up towards the camera 4 or 5 times, and then after the fact, after I got home, I'd go through the video feed and freeze frame what was kind of the shot that I was looking for and pull that out of the actual video footage and stuff. So it's just it's not, I wouldn't call it a struggle to get some of the shots, but I've had to be more or less creative in how it is I decide to capture things, especially when I don't want to have the phone in my hand to do it. But
so it's selfish.
Yeah.
You're not doing this for people to look at and go, wow, that's a cool photo. You're doing it for yourself.
I don't think so.
I mean, that's part of the journey. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah. But like, you know, I don't do it just exclusively for myself. It's just sometimes it's a very solo thing, you know, so I've had to be innovative in the way that I photograph things, especially if I am part of the subject in the photo. So
where was it? This one?
Yeah.
That's with your old fixie.
Yeah, that's the fixed gear.
Somebody else with you on that ride, or you took that one yourself? That's
just me. That's so I found this tree at the corner of that trail, and actually out of frame, but because the camera's sitting on top of it is a sign that has the name to the park. It's like a big 4x6 like piece of wood, and then a chain thing that holds the sign that says Mackin Park or Loose Park is where that is. And I just, again, set up the video camera on my phone and faced it towards the tree, hung the bike in the tree, and then climbed it. And I kid you not, like some of the pretty shameless moments, a family walked by at one point, and I waved, and I was like, yeah, I'm being weird, and just kind of go by and then relax a little bit. I knew I wanted to somehow capture just a dude in a tree kind of enjoying the summer. It was one of the first days of summer. And
yeah, you get immune to that after a while though, right? And just,
oh yeah,
I'm setting up my shot. Hey, just ignore me.
Yeah, for sure. It's the only thing that's trouble now is like some areas recently in North Kansas City, I was trying to frame a shot of the sunset, and I actually got a warning for being on the wrong side of the train tracks. And had I not had to like precariously set my bike up, it was an inverted shot or whatever, I wouldn't have lingered so long, and I wouldn't have had so much attention from the people getting off work, who I'm sure somebody notified the cops. And I got pulled over on my bike right as I was leaving the area.
Yeah, I've gotten those warnings, especially around train tracks, because they're like, technically, I guess the train could jump the track, and it's not safe for you to hang out next to the train tracks. So
that's what they say.
Yeah, I've been run off a few times around train tracks as well.
Yeah,
that'll happen. So, did you ever try to carry something more than just your iPhone, or never gave that much thought?
Photography wise? Yeah,
as far as making photos.
Yeah, no, I've considered a tripod, actually, like a little just gimmicky tripod for some of the shots like this, where I want to remove myself from holding the camera for whatever reason. But I never have. I've never gotten around to it. I experimented with one over Christmas at my grandparents, because my little brother actually got one. So early in the morning, I went for a ride, and on the way home, when I was in the garage, I saw it like in the pile of stuff that he was getting ready to take home, and I went and found a shot with it. But that would be it, though. Yeah, definitely not like a camera or anything professional.
Okay, so your photography aside from this, I mean, that was kind of what in our email exchanges before we did this. You said you had some other interest in photography as well. Where has that taken you? What other kind of photography have you practiced?
Well, on my mom's side, I have an uncle who is really into photography, and he's like into the organic side of photography, where he'll take a picture with a lensed camera and then go home and edit it. But you know, I sometimes run my things through Instagram, compresses images their own way, so I'll run it through their filter before I upload it. But he is more or less concerned with intelligently designing the photo and wanting to bring out elements of the photo manually versus, running it through a filter. But his intuitiveness and his passion for that is definitely where my interest in photography and intelligently photography, like taking photographs, began. I just got to see him, frame things. We've traveled together a couple of times by way of car, and just he would see something off the side of the road and ask my permission, like, is it okay if we go take a picture of that? And of course it is, or whatever. But seeing him kind of get lost in his own world as he's setting up his camera and framing the subject the way he wanted to, I wanted something about that. I wanted some part of that, the infatuation with it, and walking away with a moment like that, after you're in a place that you might not ever go again, you have part of it with you, and you can take that home and then share it with people too. So
that's awesome. That's a piece that not a lot of people have in their lives, like somebody else to show them, I don't know, how to take it seriously or how to be passionate about it. Like you said, just seeing him get excited about stopping and setting up a shot and thinking about it, being purposeful with it, is something that, like, same with bike riding. Somebody introduced you to riding more miles, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to just go out there and go, hey, I feel like going on a 60-mile bike ride.
Right. No way. Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody leads you down that path and says, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, I'm going on this crazy, I've done that with friends. Like, I'm going on this, 3-day self-supported bike ride. Okay, I'm not a bike packer. Well, you should come with me. All right, sure, why not? Not something I wanted to do for myself, but because a friend was doing it, I'm like, yeah, all right, that sounds cool.
It's been a brave thing in a lot of different ways. Like, I used to be really intimidated at the very idea of riding alongside traffic, and then as I got used to that, I started to avoid certain intersections because they're intimidating. But all of that kind of falls by the wayside as you gain confidence as a cyclist, and that's a learning experience that I think is really valuable too, that came from this, all of this as well, like just the bravery and forcing yourself to almost step outside of your comfort zone and take risks, but measured risks safely, and seeing that you come out on the other side okay, and you can actually expand from there too. It's just, this is a part of it that's been really important to me as well.
Totally. Yeah. Layering things. Like you said, you thought that riding by itself, doing long rides by itself was kind of boring. So you decided to add the photography camera component to it, just spice it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, I noticed too, like I moved recently, but when I lived in the Northland here, I had driven to that high school or wherever it was I worked a million times, and those roads were like I knew them like the back of my hand. But as soon as I started riding those very same roads and routes, I was seeing things almost like it was for the first time. I was noticing different things, houses and different trees and stuff, and just was infatuated with how different the world looked at that pace when you weren't just muscle memory motoring by in your car on your way to do something, and capturing that too.
So was that sense of your surroundings when you're riding, did that happen before or after you were thinking about photography on your rides?
I think just before, and then I could sense it kind of fleeting too. I was at a loss of words to try and describe to somebody what it was I had just seen, or how awesome something was to me, or how, just how different it looked from this side versus the other. And so being kind of aware of the fleetingness of those moments drove me to want to capture them, but also in tandem with my passion for photography, or the idea of intelligently photographing things. It was kind of a seamless transition, I just filled my time up with both at the same time. I haven't really sat down to think about which one fueled the other.
So would you say they serve common purpose in your life, or they serve separate purposes?
Okay, so they do serve common purpose, but if I had to let one of them go, I would let go of the the photography before I gave up the opportunity to be able to ride my bike and actually go explore and see those things, you know.
Yeah.
That's more important to me, you know, than anything. There's a chance that some crazy EMP goes off and fries the whole internet of things, and I lose all my pictures somehow. But I actually still remember everything, and that's really all I actually have, and I'm aware of that. But right now, in harmony with the luxuries I'm afforded, they both are equal parts, really.
Damn, I like that answer. That's really good. I hadn't thought about if I had to give one up. I don't know. There's a lot of other things I think I'd give up in my life before I gave up either one of those. I
know, yeah, me too.
Satisfying in different ways to me, but that's an interesting.
Of course, I'm sitting here not really having to make that decision, so it's easy to say. But I think that's pretty honest.
I'm gonna have to watch this back later and unpack that answer. I like I like the way you answered that, though. That was really cool. I did want to ask about this. It looks like it's not showing up right here, but this mural idea.
Oh yeah.
This is one of the photos I couldn't really show. How did you? Yeah, what motivated you to do this? And I think it's not one photo, right? It's a bunch of different photos.
Yeah, it's two separate photos, and they're taken almost a year apart in two completely different parts of the city. So I've seen people mural things on their feeds before, and this is muddied up now, of course, but so it is kind of a commitment in that way. But I didn't want to just add a set of nine tiles that was one photo. So I figured out a way to edit them together, which, you know, the photo up top there is a flipped upside down photo of the bike. I don't know what to call it other than that, but
oh yeah, I see. You got to add a few more to push it all down into perspective.
Yeah, and so the one photo bleeds into another, and that was kind of my way of my unique spin on the mural idea or whatever. But I think that I liked that contribution to the feed, but I'm not committed to the idea of much more muraling anytime soon, really.
Curious, yeah, if that was like a new direction you were going, because it was at the top of your feed there for a little while.
Yeah, I liked it for sure. I wasn't sure how to move on for a little while, you know, because as soon as you add obviously one picture, you have to add in sets of 3 for a while. It's fine. You get the idea there, strong.
Constraints of the platform.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're planning on doing next, or just continue exploring like you have been?
Well, so Seymour Dogood, being the name affiliated with this feed, is kind of an idea I have for just a branding of exploration of Kansas City in general. Like, this is the most generic way I could say this, but like Seymour Dogood hats or t-shirts or something. But you know, the idea is I want to eventually be able to craft the idea that Seymour Dogood is branded explorative exploration of your city, wherever you are. And I know that's an abstract, very airy way to even try and dress that up, and but that is pretty much my focus, where I would like to go with it. Not that I want to start like a business or anything out of it, but I do want to eventually perpetuate Seymour Dogood as just the initiative to explore your city. And, you know, the name came from, I'm not sure where I thought about it. Obviously, it's like, what do they call that when you want to a play on words or whatever. Neither here nor there.
But I can't remember what it is either. I know what you're
saying. Take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. That whole kind of like idea is wrapped up in the name Seymour Dogood too. Somehow I haven't quite figured out how to pull that out yet either. But just kind of a general branding is I think where it lays.
Very cool. So that sounds like a big project. I'll take up the rest of your life, you know.
Yeah.
It's always good to have those ambitions, and you never know where that's going to lead, right?
Yeah, it's just a fun thing to expand on in an amateur way, and you know, if it somehow gains traction in one way or another for me, then I'll dump a lot more time and energy into it. But yeah, it's just a brainchild really at the moment.
Very cool. There's one question I like to kind of wrap up with here, but before I do that, is there anywhere that you want people to find you other than your Instagram Beef Fixie feed?
I think the most viable way to reach out to me or see what I'm doing is on Instagram here right now. But I do have like an about me and a Twitter handle and stuff. But they're far less cultivated, and anything interesting I'm doing is going to be here on Instagram for now. So
this is where you put the most effort and time into.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, you got a unique perspective. I mean, the photos speak for themselves. You're good at what you do there. As far as the photography goes, the cycling, I hope your Seymour Do Good takes off and inspire people to get out there and explore on their bike.
Thanks, man.
So my wrap-up question is, if budget were no barrier, where would you most want to ride and photograph in the world?
I read that one. I bounced that one around for a while. I don't know. I mean, obviously, not just here. In a generic answer, I love the mountains, anywhere with mountains. But I think if I had to choose right now, Egypt. I think I would like to be like somewhere just. I think that's totally unexpected, and the desert is beautiful in its own way. It's intimidating to me. I know nothing about it, and being able to explore that, I think, would be. That'd be my first choice right now.
Damn, that's one I haven't heard. I'm sure you could make an adventure tour across Egypt.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Probably mostly self-supported.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But that would be an adventure for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic, man.